Alrighty, we are back with our sixth and final part to this drum roller project for the Stellar Robotics 2018 CAD class. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing what we've done in the last video of the series of all of our projects is we're going to be adding the fasteners. Like I've said in the previous videos, we don't normally add fasteners to our CAD models unless they serve some really critical purpose that we need to be able to evaluate in the CAD model. But for the sake of completeness on these, it's a good idea to get in the practice of it for all these projects. And if we have a lot of manpower on the team, it's a good idea to add the fasteners if you can. It's just typically a waste of time if you don't have a lot of CAD people working. So we're going to do it. It really makes the CAD models look nice anyways. So let's talk about what we got to do. So we know we've got to do a 1/4-20 button head and a washer. We've been using 1/2 inch long 1/4-20 button heads here, so we're going to do the same thing. We've downloaded these CAD models before. Normally, when you're working with standard parts, we keep a standard parts folder. I'll just actually show you. This is the we just use Google Drive to keep our Stellar stuff. So we just have a standard parts folder. We've got like a fasteners folder. We kind of just dump random fasteners that we use in a folder. We got a folder for gears. Right, so we've just got a folder for a bunch of different parts. And then every model that we do pulls from that standard folder. So normally during a season, you'll download a screw first, or you'll download a screw one time, and you won't have to download it again. And then if you've already downloaded that screw, for instance, you're not going to have to do it a second time. However, for the sake of these CAD class projects, I haven't been doing that. I've been re-downloading the files every time because the file management for doing that whole standard parts thing can get pretty tricky, so I don't want to bother doing it. So we're just going to go and re-download the CAD models again for those. And then we're going to need an 1/8 inch hex spacer in here. We're going to need a 1/4 inch hex spacer in here. And then we're going to need mounting screws for the gearbox. So I think we're going to use they're 1032s. We're going to use socket heads, and I think we're going to use ones that are 1/2 inch long. That's what we usually do to mount these. I don't think we're going to put a washer under there. I hadn't planned on doing that. Sometimes you might want to. In this case, I don't think there's a reason to. Plus, we're kind of crunched for space to avoid interfering with this belt, so I really don't want to add any space in there. So, screw and a washer for this, a spacer over here, a spacer here, and a screw here. So 5 things, if I counted that correctly. If I didn't, it'll be okay. All right, so let's go to McMaster Car to download our CAD models. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go back to Inventor. I'm going to just delete out the step files that we have in this folder already, because we're going to download 5 more, and I don't want them to get confused. So, all right, cancel out of that, go back to McMaster Car. All right, so button head cap screws is what we're looking for. They're going to be alloy steel button head cap screws. Yep. The thread size is going to be 1/4-20. The length is going to be 1/2 inch. It's going to be these black oxide steel coated ones. Click on the part number, click on product detail. 3D step is what you want in the CAD format. Depending on your browser and your screen resolution, you might have to scroll down to get to this. It might be down at the bottom of the page. I've got a 1080p monitor, so it shows up like this, but your computer, especially on your laptop, might show this page differently. So give that a save. All right, so now we're just going to go up in the search box. We're going to do washers, washer, general purpose washers. All right, for screw size will be 1/4 inch. These 18/8 stainless steel general purpose washers are what we want. So click on the part number, click on product detail, 3D step, click save, and we'll move all these folders or all these step files in at the same time. Washer. Yeah, it should be okay. All right, so now we need a socket head cap screw. Yep, socket head screws, alloy steel socket head screws. There's all these different categories. I'm just clicking my way through. thread size, I'll talk about something here in a second that'll be important. So 1032 for the thread size, and the length will be 1/2 inch. If you guys have problems, I'm just kind of blowing through this just because I want this video to be short, and we've downloaded these exact CAD models already. If you guys don't want to download some of these CAD models again, and you know you have a copy of that part already, for instance, left over from the gearbox project, you can just copy the files in. Like, I'm fine with you guys doing that. I'm going through this again for the sake of completeness. Also, if you have trouble browsing on the website, because I'm going pretty quick, if you have trouble finding the exact part, this is the part number right here. So the part number that I'm clicking on to go to the CAD page, if you want to pause the video, you can type this exact part number into this search box. If you type this part number in exactly, you don't have to worry about capitals. You can type a lowercase a or a capital A. It'll be the same. But type in this part number in here, and it'll take you to that exact part number. So if you don't want to have to click through all the categories, you can just pause the video, type in the correct part number into the search box, and it'll take you right there. So this is the one we're going to go for here. Click on product detail, 3D step, save. All right, so now we need to go get parts. We need to get the 2 spacers that we need from VexPro. So we're going to go back to VexPro. We're going to go to hardware. It's going to be these acetal spacers. We used 1 or 2 of these in the gearbox project. We're going to scroll down to CAD files. So we need the 1/4 inch acetal spacer, 1/2 inch hex. Download that. And we need the 1/8 inch acetal spacer, 1/2 inch hex. Download that. All right, so we got 5 files here. We're going to right click, show in folder, grab all of these, cut, and go back to our drum roller project folder, paste those in. Normally I would name these files something specific, but the only reason I would do that is when we put them in that standard parts folder that I showed you guys. So for the sake of this project here, I'm going to just leave these the names they are like we have been. All right, so let's start importing all these. We'll import all of them, get them set up with the materials and all that stuff, and then we will constrain them all. So it looks like this is an acetal spacer, so bring this in, click OK, delete the sketch, set the material to acetal resin black. We're going to have to override the color. We're going to set we're going to put an axis in the middle. We're going to go to solid bodies to fix the color. Right click on solid one, go to properties, clear all overrides, select the drop down, scroll up, go to as part, click OK. Just like we've done before. I'm going to give that a save and close it. Open, go to the next one, and I've lost my thumbnails again. That's great. I need to get to the bottom of that. I think it must have something to do with either the video recording software or something to do with importing these files. It always seems to happen. It always seems to happen when I'm downloading something, but more likely it's probably something to do with recording. Anyways, doing this again, this is basically the same exact part except half the thickness. This is the 1/8 inch one. So we're going to add a work axis, set the material to acetal resin black, and for some reason I didn't have to override the color on this one. I don't know why they were different, but give that a save, close it, open the next one. This is going to be our gearbox mounting screw. Click OK. Delete the sketch. Okay, so we need a work axis. The round surface of the head will work, so click on axis, click the round surface of the head. Click the material drop down to steel, for steel alloy. Yeah, and then the color we're going to set to glossy black. Save that, close that, open, go to the next one. This will be our retention screws for the end of the shaft. Click OK. Delete the sketch. Alright, so we need a work axis here. This surface right here works. Once again, alloy steel, glossy black for the color. Give it a save. Alright, the washer is the last one. Open that up. Click OK. Delete the sketch. Add a work axis. And a stainless steel. This is 18/8 stainless steel, which, if I remember correctly, is equivalent to 304. We're just going to pick that. It really doesn't make a difference. It's making this chrome satin. I actually don't care. Normally this would be semi-gloss, but I don't care. So give that a save. Close out of it. All right. So let's start here. We're gonna put the washer on. We're going to put a washer on this end and a washer on this end, and then we'll put the screws on either end. We're going to be using insert constraints for this. So I'm going to go to place component, and I got to try to find this first one. Nice. Okay, so let's rotate this. I'm going to rotate it the other way. Once again, I explained why I rotate things like that in an earlier video, just because of what I expect, the direction I expect it to be facing. So do that one, and then I'm going to just rotate it around. It's less important for imported components, but it's kind of just habit at this point. It's kind of up to you whether you want to do that or not. All right, press escape to get out of that. Go to the constrain tool, go to insert, pick that side of the washer and the edge of this hole and apply. Where to go? Oops. Pick that. You can pick the inside or the outside circle. It really doesn't matter. Pick the edge of the hole and click apply. Alright, so now we're going to place component again, and that's the socket head. That's the button head. Got to do this without previews. Rotate this around. So we've got one on either end. So we're going to go back to constrain, go to insert, pick this circle here. It's a little hard to see because it's black. It's even harder if I hadn't picked glossy black. You wouldn't be able to tell, which is why I use glossy black, even though these fasteners aren't particularly glossy. All right, then we're going to pick the hole of the washer, not the hole of the shaft. The hole of the washer could be the outside one or the inside. Doesn't make a difference. All right, then we're going to pick this ring at the underside of the head on the other one and do the same thing. Okay, so that's all well and good. All right, so now let's put this spacer in here. That should be fairly straightforward. It's going to be this 1/8 inch acetal spacer. All right, technically there's a way to use the insert constraint on this, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to deal with it. So constrain, I'm going to constrain the work axis to the axis of the shaft. And then I'm just going to constrain one side. You can either constrain one side to the end cap, or you can constrain it to the bearing. I'm going to constrain it to the end cap. And you can see that it's just the perfect size to fill that gap. It's almost like it was designed that way. Alright, so over here, we're going to do kind of the same thing. We're going to place component. We're going to grab the 1/4 inch one, place it down. We're going to constrain the work axis to the work axis of the gearbox, which is this guy right here. Click apply. Then we're going to constrain one side of the spacer. We could either get in here and constrain it to the end of this gearbox hub, or I'm going to constrain it to the end of the pulley hub. And then we can kind of get in here and see that it should be relatively well lined up. I'll show you a trick that will help us confirm some of this stuff once we're done. So let's, we got one more fastener to place. Let's place component. Should be black oxide alloy steel socket head cap screw. We need, that's facing the right direction already, so we need one there and one there to go in this hole and that hole. So let's just pick the constrain tool, go to insert, pick, it can't be this circle, it has to be this circle, because there's a little bevel there. You need to pick the the one that's closer towards the end of the screw. Alright, and pick the edge of that hole and apply, and edge of that fastener to the edge of that hole and apply. All right, and that's it. That's all the fasteners. Other than rivets, most of the other fastening done in this assembly is accomplished with rivets. The bearing blocks are in place by rivets. All the structure is with rivets. We obviously have the shaft collar in here, which is technically the shaft collar is a fastener. However, it's an important enough fastener that I would never leave a shaft collar out of an assembly. I would always put the shaft collar in. Whereas in a lot of cases, I would leave spacers out, and I would leave like these screws out just because of time, typically. So I wanted to show you guys just one other thing. Some of these fasteners in here, like this one in here, it's hard to tell if it's actually positioned correctly. So you can do what's called a section view. If you go to View, where it says quarter section view, click the drop down and go to half section view. Then basically you need to pick a plane. So you can do this a couple different ways. You can click and drag on a plane, and basically you can cut the assembly. You can look at it, and once you let go of the mouse, and you can type in your dimension here. Now we know the distance from the top to the bottom of this is 2.5 inches. So 1.25 or negative 1.25 is exactly in the middle. You can also go to the origin, and you can pick one of these planes and use that to split it. Up to you. But if you click OK, it'll stay this way until you end it. So you can see, here, you can see our end caps in place. And actually, sometimes it's helpful if you switch the visual style to shaded with edges, because then you can see the actual borders of stuff. The hexes look like they overlap because the hexes are not lined up. But you can see here, this is our gearbox, this is our pulley, that's our spacer. Everything's lined up just the way we want it. And this is a real cool way to look at stuff and make sure everything's lined up the way you want. You can see we've got the hex shaft going through, we've got the end caps on either end, and then the tube in the middle. So this is a pretty good way to look at things. If you need to be able to see stuff and kind of split through the middle, looking at these section views can help. And you can section view it multiple ways. You can also do a quarter section view if you wanted to slice it in another direction as well. But to get out of this view, you just click the drop down on where it says half section view now, and click end section view, and it'll take it back to the normal way. And I'm going to switch the visual style back to shaded. Alrighty, so that is it for this project. This is a pretty good representation of how you would drive a roller on an intake for a design. Every robot's going to be a little different, but this is one way you could do it. This is a pretty good way to do it. So thank you for working on it. I will see you in the next one.